I just want to say how much I appreciate Puff Daddy for doing the kinds of work that he's doing, because he doesn't have to do this. But this is part of what is important about giving.
This is a labor of love for Jay, and as a result, he's my friend. We're here to talk about that and nothing else.
Control me. They can control Jay-Z and Beyonce.
But not you, man.
But they can't control me. You see, it ain't no name I won't name. Exactly. It's up.
Tucker that we got now is Epstein Island Chris Tucker, not Smokey.
Stuff sounded so outlandish, from like Epstein to even the shit with like Pizzagate and Haiti, and you hear like, man, that shit is so dark. There's no way it can be true. And I would be reading this stuff and be like, something like, again, I'll be like, I'm not that much of a conspiracy theorist to be like, this stuff, they can't really be trapping little kids and sleeping with them, and and still be billion.
And the kids were not always enthusiastic about the food that they were being served, so they were always trying to call for pizzas, and you can't order a pizza to the White House.
Would love you to come over for pizza, bud. How was the pizza? Was it good?
Oh,
what, did he make it himself?
Mom's pizza was better than Clooney's. They both made, everybody made a certain kind of pizza.
There's no pizza we didn't love.
Something.
Should eat pizza? I was like, well, no, I don't want to. And then, I just didn't want to. I just didn't want to. Where did we go? We went True Kitchen.
Hold on a second.
I shouldn't promote things.
You can promote whatever you want, but I need to take a step back because you just said something crazy. What do you mean, why would you want to eat pizza?
Jazzo and Jay-Z were in London living it big time back in like 88. They were in this huge, I'm born and raised in England, and I never saw an apartment that looked like that in England, or a flat as we call it. I've never seen that. They lived
there for a little bit?
They were there for like, I don't know, 5 months, something like that.
Donald Trump and what it means for mass incarceration.
You know what? This is a labor of love for Jay, and as a result, he's my friend. We're here to talk about that and nothing else.
Then can I ask you about mass incarceration? And do you think the movement,
like Jay-Z and Pusha T, they made their living our people, so how the f they gonna stand up for our people? You know what I'm saying? But we forget that because we love Jay-Z's music so much. We love Pusha's music so much, right? But you think they would ever, Beyonce had the best fit for somebody else? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You think they would ever tell the truth? No, if they told the truth, I didn't go to jail. You know what I'm saying? So you have liars. Man. Liars are now the face of our...
I think it is highly offensive for people who are smart enough to really know what's happening. Look, y'all talk all that about R. Kelly. Beyonce was on that island where they was kids.
Damn!
Beyonce was on Pedo Island. Beyonce and the camel.
Yeah. They say she was in there like,
Right.
I hope I can go see her again.
She was singing and look, if you like it, put your mouth on it. This is what I'm saying. It's like you give her a pass. You give her a pass. She can have a concert and everything after she's a known participant on Pedo Island. It's like people want to dismiss it. That's why you can't tell me nothing about what the media say about nobody.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the media is going to make a bad guy out of whoever they want.
Him on my 31st birthday by my ex-boyfriend Flavio. He was always front and center at Victoria's Secret shows.
Did you suspect what he was doing?
No. And what he's done is indefensible. And when I heard of what he'd done, it sickened me to my stomach, just like everybody else. Because I've had my fair share of sexual predators, and thank God that I had good people around me that protected me from this. I mean, right now I stand with the victims. I can't, they're scarred.
And what do you think she gets out of it? Well, she gets money. When you bring models or people that can easily be manipulated, you get funded. How does she own an island being a supermodel?
I didn't know she owns an island.
Yeah, she owns an island. But this is crime scene investigation.
Yeah.
But it opens your eyes to things that you never even thought of. and I connect all the dots slowly, but it all.
One of the issues that's dogged you is that of your relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Do you regret the relationship that you maintained with him against Melinda's advice and wishes?
Oh, I've said that you're going way back in time, but yeah,
new audience.
I will say for the, over 100th time, yeah, I shouldn't have had dinners with him.
Epstein had a way of really compromising people. Is that what Melinda was warning you about?
No. I mean, no, I had dinner with him, and that's all.
You could see how nervous he got. He was trying real hard to keep it together, but he was stuttering and doing everything he could to act like it wasn't a big deal.
You knew Jeffrey Epstein, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. We flew Bill Clinton and a lot of different. That was a humanitarian trip to Africa, and I met him on that trip because it was his plane. I didn't know who plane we was getting on, but it was a whole bunch of dignitary people. We was with a delegation, and yeah, I met him, and you don't know people what they do in their private lives, so yeah.
But tell me this, Chris. He was on this private plane, and you could tell that it was a private plane because they called it, was it Lolita Express?
Oh yeah, it was a private plane. Yes. Oh yes.
But wait a minute. You didn't never go to that island, did you?
No. I don't know where that thing is.
Island, Chris Tucker. Not Smokey. Oh Lord. If I didn't know no better, I'd tell you he's the greatest. I don't care what you say. To be confident and not delusional is a real skill. Most of these confident people we see is really delusional.
Well, you don't think they asked Chris Tucker to come back in the second Friday? Smokey was all in Smokey. There ain't no Friday without Smokey.
We all agree to that, and there's no next Friday without Friday, and there's no Friday after next without Friday.
We talking about the road because you said that they don't.
Here's the thing. Okay. Here's the thing. Chris was allowed to make the decision. At the time that this is happening, Katt Williams is known for smoking weed. Willie Nelson is known for smoking weed. Right. Snoop's known for smoking weed, but none of us is really known except Willie. And I'm saying, Chris Tucker didn't want to be the poster child for smoking weed. He don't smoke weed like that.
Right.
He in the church. He Michael Jackson's best friend. Christmas. Michael Jackson called him Christmas. You ever met a man that gave you a little nickname like that?
No.
Me neither.
Unbelievable sadness. Unbelievable sadness, right? And again, I'm able to take my own sadness and look at those young girls and say, my God, how did that happen to those girls, right?
It was many things, but I did not like that he'd had meetings with Jeffrey Epstein, no.
Mm-hmm. And you made that clear to him?
I made that clear to him. I also met Jeffrey Epstein exactly one time.
Did you?
Yes, because I wanted to see who this man was. And I regretted it from the second I stepped in the door. He was abhorrent. He was evil personified. I had nightmares about it.
For years, people laughed at the rumors. They called it conspiracy talk. They said Hollywood elites were untouchable. But then the Epstein files dropped, and suddenly the names weren't whispers anymore. They were headlines. And the wildest part? Katt Williams said it was coming. For years, Katt Williams was treated like the court jester of Hollywood. The funny guy who talked too much, the comedian who went off script, the one people said was bitter, jealous, or just chasing headlines. But when he sat down on Club Shay Shay and calmly started naming names, something felt different. There was no punchline, no frantic energy. Just a man speaking with the confidence of someone who knew the clock was ticking. He didn't hedge. He didn't whisper. He said the quiet part out loud. He hinted that some of the most protected celebrities in the world weren't just entertainers. They were connected, deeply connected. And when he mentioned Epstein Island Chris Tucker, like it was casual conversation, people laughed. They said Katt was spiraling. They said he was jealous of bigger stars. They said he was reaching for attention. But what made it uncomfortable wasn't the accusation. It was how certain he sounded. He spoke like someone who had already seen the receipts, like someone who knew the dam was about to break. And then the Epstein files dropped. Suddenly, the same internet that called him crazy started replaying his interview in slow motion. The same critics who dismissed him started asking, wait, how did he know? That's when the narrative flipped. Because it's one thing to rant. It's another thing to be early. And Katt didn't just stir the pot. He looked like he beat the feds to the punch. But if we're talking about shock value, No Name hit harder than Jay-Z. Not because he's loud, not because he's reckless, but because he's strategic, calculated, untouchable. He isn't just a rapper. He's a billionaire mogul, a cultural architect, half of the most powerful couple in music. So when whispers started connecting his name to allegations buried in the files, fans immediately went into defense mode. The timeline doesn't even make sense, they argued. In 1996, he was just starting out. He wasn't even that big yet. And on the surface, that sounds logical. A new rapper, barely breaking through, somehow moving in elite circles? Impossible, right? Except that's where the story gets complicated. Because being new to fame doesn't mean being new to connections. An anonymous accuser claimed she woke up in a room involving powerful industry figures, including Jay-Z, during that era. The claim alone sent shockwaves, not because it was proven, but because of who it named. And while fans focused on dates and discographies, old footage started resurfacing. Clips of Jay alongside Harvey Weinstein, appearing unusually close, unusually aligned. Interviews where Weinstein seemed less like a distant acquaintance and more like a gatekeeper. Then came a party photos, private rooms, elite gatherings, familiar faces overlapping in ways that felt too coincidental for comfort. And just when the internet was trying to process that, people dug up Kanye West's old rants, the warnings about industry control, about gatekeepers, about culture being manipulated by those at the top. At the time, Kanye was dismissed as erratic, emotional, off his meds. But layered on top of everything else, his words started to sound less chaotic and more coded. That's what makes this uncomfortable. Not proof, not verdicts, but patterns. Because if Jay really was just starting out, how was he already in rooms like that? And Jay wasn't the only name people swore would never show up. The circle started widening, and with it came even more uncomfortable conversations. Beyoncé's name surfaced in online allegations tied to elite social circles, claims that remain unproven but persistent enough to trend repeatedly. Supporters called it ridiculous, baseless, an attack on a global icon. And to be clear, accusations are not convictions. But what made it volatile wasn't evidence. It was the idea that even someone as polished and protected as Beyoncé could be mentioned in the same breath as scandal. Then Naomi Campbell entered the chat. Flight logs showed she had flown multiple times on Epstein's jet in the early 2000s. Immediately, she issued statements saying she had no knowledge of any crimes and was sickened by what later came out. She positioned herself as another person misled by proximity. But critics pointed to emails suggesting coordination for events, references to logistics, conversations that raised eyebrows. Again, not convictions, not charges, but enough smoke to keep the internet digging. The narrative was shifting from isolated names to a web of proximity. And once people started mapping that web, the pattern became the story. It wasn't about one celebrity anymore. It was about how many powerful figures moved in overlapping circles while the public remained in the dark. Then the tone shifted completely. Because when the conversation moves from entertainers to tech billionaires, it stops feeling like gossip and starts feeling systemic. Bill Gates' interview clip resurfaced, the one where he awkwardly admits he shouldn't have had dinners with Epstein. The phrasing felt small, contained, like the damage was limited to a few regrettable meals. I had dinner with him, that's all, he insisted. But investigative reports suggested a relationship that went beyond casual acquaintance. Meetings, repeated contact, strategic discussions. And then came Melinda Gates' visible discomfort when asked about it. Her words weren't loud, but they were heavy. She described Epstein as abhorrent and evil personified, admitting she regretted ever meeting him. That wasn't tabloid noise. That was personal fallout. A billionaire marriage dissolving under the shadow of association. Suddenly the theme became unavoidable. Proximity to Epstein wasn't limited to politicians or fringe celebrities. It stretched into tech empires, philanthropic foundations, global power networks. And that's when the fear factor deepened. Because entertainers can be canceled. But billionaires? Billionaires rarely fall. The real tension isn't just who knew what. It's who remains untouched. And if Katt Williams really did see this storm coming before the documents hit the public, the question isn't whether he was joking. It's how much more he hasn't said yet. If there's one storyline that feels like a character transformation arc straight out of a Hollywood script, it's Chris Tucker's. For years, he was Smokey, the fast-talking, church-loving comedian who walked away from Friday because he didn't want to glorify smoking. The guy who said he found faith. The one who positioned himself as morally grounded in an industry known for compromise. So when his name surfaced in connection to Epstein's flight logs, the initial reaction wasn't outrage. It was confusion. Chris? That Chris? His team moved quickly, offering a clean explanation. It was a humanitarian trip to Africa. AIDS awareness, charity work, a delegation that included dignitaries and even former President Bill Clinton. He didn't know whose jet it was. He didn't know anything about an island. He was just there to do good. And on paper, that sounds reasonable. But here's where the narrative starts bending. The jet wasn't just any jet. It was the jet. The one later branded in headlines worldwide. The one whose passenger list became the internet's most dissected documents. And suddenly, the humanitarian framing didn't quiet the questions. It amplified them. Then came the interviews, the body language, the slight stutter, the visible discomfort when asked directly about Jeffrey Epstein. He admitted he flew on the plane. Yes, it was private. Yes, he met him. But no, he never went to the island. No, he didn't know what Epstein was doing in his private life. The words were there, but so was the tension. Viewers replayed the clip not for what he said, but for how he said it. The pauses, the tight smile, the energy shift. In the age of viral scrutiny, demeanor becomes evidence in the court of public opinion. And that's when Katt Williams' earlier warning resurfaced like a ghost returning to finish a sentence. The Chris Tucker we got now is Epstein Island Chris Tucker, not Smokey. At the time, it sounded like a petty jab, a competitive swipe from one comedian to another. But layered onto flight logs and nervous interviews, it hit differently. It felt less like shade and more like a coded message. A line delivered months before documents made headlines. That's what turned this from gossip into a character collapse arc. Because the public didn't just see a name on a list, they saw a contrast. Smokey versus Epstein Island Chris Tucker. Church-going comic versus elite jet passenger. And once that contrast takes root, it's hard to unsee. The transformation doesn't need a conviction. It only needs doubt. And the question lingers heavier than any accusation. Was Katt warning us or warning them? Then there's Ashton Kutcher, a different kind of shift entirely. Not a sudden fall, but a slow erosion. Ashton built a reputation as the tech-savvy activist actor, the guy fighting human trafficking, the public face of an anti-exploitation foundation. He testified before Congress. He positioned himself as a protector. So when his name began circulating in conversations about proximity to powerful, controversial figures, it didn't explode overnight. It simmered. The real tipping point for many wasn't Epstein directly. It was Danny Masterson. When Masterson faced serious criminal charges, Ashton and Mila Kunis wrote character letters asking the judge for leniency. They described him as a role model, a person of integrity. Those letters leaked. And in a single news cycle, Ashton's carefully constructed activist image cracked. Critics asked how someone so publicly devoted to protecting victims could privately vouch for a convicted abuser. The cognitive dissonance was loud. From there, people started re-examining everything. His anti-trafficking organization, once universally praised, became the subject of online speculation. Not proven wrongdoing speculation. Questions about funding. Questions about partnerships. Questions about optics. Add in his documented proximity to industry power players, attendance at elite parties, connections that overlap with other controversial figures, and a pattern begins to form. Not of guilt, but of image versus reality. The activist versus the insider. The public savior versus the private networker. And once that pattern is recognized, it doesn't stay confined to one name. It becomes a lens. Every handshake, every gala appearance, every philanthropic speech gets reinterpreted. Because in Hollywood, branding is everything. And sometimes the brand is cleaner than the room it was built in. Nick Cannon represents something else entirely. Not exposure, but evolution. He wasn't tied to Epstein's island in the logs that circulated. Instead, he became part of the psychological shift happening in real time. In past interviews, he admitted that when he first heard about billionaires allegedly engaging in dark, unthinkable behavior, it sounded absurd. Conspiracy-level absurd. The kind of thing you scroll past. The kind of thing you dismiss. But as more information surfaced publicly, as court cases unfolded, as elite names kept appearing in uncomfortable proximity, his tone changed. He didn't claim insider knowledge. He didn't accuse directly. He simply said he doesn't put anything past billionaires anymore. And that statement is powerful because it mirrors the audience's emotional journey. Disbelief, then discomfort, then reluctant openness to possibility. Nick becomes the bridge between skepticism and suspicion. If someone embedded in the entertainment industry can admit that what once sounded impossible now feels plausible, that normalizes the doubt for everyone else. It lowers the psychological barrier. It shifts the Overton window. Suddenly, questioning power isn't fringe, it's cautious. And that's where the unease settles in. Not in confirmed guilt, not in dramatic arrests, but in the accumulation of proximity. The repeated intersections. The way comedians, rappers, models, tech titans, activists, and billionaires all seem to orbit the same gravitational centers of power. Some deny, some deflect, some stay silent. But the pattern is what people can't ignore anymore. Because when enough high-profile names share the same private spaces, the same jets, the same donors, the same closed-door events, coincidence starts to feel like architecture. And the public is left staring at a system that appears insulated from consequence. The scariest part isn't the names we saw. It's the names we haven't. Because in Hollywood, silence has always been louder than truth.